What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Montana Method Podcast one more time. As always, your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., author, creator, director, and everything under the sun of Montana Method. Appreciate you guys tuning in for this live stream every Friday. Today, I have the gracious honor of having a very good friend here with me, Hugi Contreras, or Hugi C, as she's known nowadays.
Yes.
A very old friend of mine. She's known me for a long time now, and we get to reconnect live on the air, which is pretty cool. I haven't seen her in a very long time. She's very well versed in many things. Real estate investing is one of them. She's built quite a little thing going on for herself that we'll talk about. She's a very wise woman, has very wise words of life. I've grown to appreciate our conversations and the things we talk about and the advice she gives and her perspective. So you're gonna have a great time. There's gonna be a very good episode. Elijah, kick the intro.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. Promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
Hugi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me
You've
here.
been trying to do this for like a year, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I appreciate you actually following up and giving me that nudge.
Sure.
Otherwise, I'd probably not commit.
I've been told that I'm persistent. It's funny because some people tell me that, like, it depends on the person. Some people are like,
Right.
"Oh my God, you're so persistent," saying like, "Man, that's great that you're so." But other people are annoyed by it. It's not a. I found that most of the time, when people say things about you, it's not a reflection of you at all. It's more of a reflection of their perception of you.
100%.
You know?
I actually like that persistence though, because it's a true virtue to have. Like I know for me, like it's one of the qualities I have, and so I appreciate it. So
For sure.
thank you so much.
Of course, it's life. I mean, think about it. How often do things work out on the first try?
Right.
Never.
Hardly ever.
Ever. So I think it's
Hardly ever.
hilarious how you have those two perspectives, right? You have the people who are like, "Oh my God, that's so great that you follow up, man. Like I really admire that about you because, you know, things are crazy or whatever and you still get to manage to like." But then I have the, "Oh my God, bro." Yeah. It's like, "Dude, what do you expect me to do?" Like,
No.
"Oh yeah, hey, here," and then leave it up to, you know, the winds of change to
Right.
figure shit out. No, bro. Like,
Right. And
You have to-
especially in entrepreneurship, that is
bro.
huge.
Yeah.
Very huge, because you can lose clients. And it's a good way also to nurture relationships over time, because life will always happen.
100%.
And so we'll make every excuse. And especially for me, like I know getting on live TV or on podcasts, it's like one of the things I've kind of been tucking away for a while. So I definitely appreciate it once again. So
Definitely.
Mhm.
No, I mean, now that I'm not Joe Rogan, but I've had some results, you know. So now people I haven't spoken to in years come out. It's funny because you're the opposite. You're one of my friends that I try to stay in contact with. That we're just friends. We don't really have like. There's no self interest. It's just I call you to check
Right.
up on you just because, you know, I love talking to you. But now, like, out of the woodwork, "Hey, bro, what's up, man?
I
Hey."
know.
And then you know where the conversation, and then like after 5 minutes of texting, like, "Hey, bro, by the way, I saw you're doing great with your podcast.
Mhm.
Let's connect." I'm like, "Oh my God,
Right.
dude!" Now all of a sudden, people wanna, you know, I
Get
think
in.
it's funny.
Right, which you've been a huge inspiration for me, because you started
Thank
this, what, a year ago?
No, it's
Uh,
actually next month. It's my 2-year anniversary.
Wow, incredible. But you've stayed
But
consistent.
consistently, like,
Mhm.
and on a bigger scale for a
Right.
year now. Yeah, since May of last year.
Right. And you've pretty much, like, I see you behind the scenes, like, managing all these different roles, and it's very admirable.
Thank
You
you.
know, you've kind of done the digital marketing, the productions, your branding, and your subscribers are growing. So I love the content. It's up to date. It's not filtered, and it's authentic.
Thanks.
So I'm a huge fan of your work,
Thank you.
aside from the friendship. So
Thank you. Yeah, I try to be. This is very me. You know what I
absolutely.
mean? There's nothing fake about this.
Right.
There's
right.
nothing. There's people, for example, not to name names, but like Logan Paul. Lo de él es un montaje. Like he acts a clown and he's ridiculous, but that's not who he really is. You know,
Right.
I can't do that.
Right.
I can't act a fool and be someone I'm not on camera,
Mm-hmm.
and then be a different person and be myself when the camera's off. I'm myself at all times.
Right,
You
which
know,
is something I've always embraced about you too. I remember when we first met, we had met back in 2019, 2018.
2018, yeah,
We were at this workshop for real
real
estate.
estate, yeah.
And besides knowing that you were a local Miami, fellow uh, from the community, like I just loved your laugh. Like I remember you laughed and you owned the room.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
And
I'm still like that. Like I laugh when I think something's funny. Everybody knows
right,
I think it's funny. You know?
right, and it's yours. It's almost like you've branded that laugh, and
Yeah.
I connect with it because my family, like my mom, my sister, and I, like us three, have a really like loud laugh. And growing up, like I never, wanted to laugh from like the stomach because
Yeah.
I was self conscious and people would turn, but you owned it, and I'm like I love that guy. That he's authentic, I want to be more like that, like not give,
Yeah, I
a
don't
flying
care.
shit
Nah,
about
I don't give
what
a shit
people
what
think.
No, I could,
Right.
bro.
You just own yourself,
Dude, I could give a flying rat's ass about what
Mhm.
anybody thinks about me, bro. And it's funny because there's that side of me where I know I have to be aware, like when I
Mhm.
first impressions and all that shit.
Right.
But there's times where to be professional, and there's times just to be yourself,
Mhm. Right.
And I think there's a healthy balance where you can be yourself and be professional and not come off disrespectful, Like I truly believe that most people, we all want the same thing. Like
Right.
we want to have great relationships. We want people to like us. We want to be loved and love other people and not like stay out of trouble and peace and tranquility in our lives. We all want the same thing, essentially. And I just believe that my intentions come off when I do things. And even though some people are like, oh my God,
Mhm.
that guy, I'm just like, that's your perception of me.
Right.
That's
It
not who
goes
I
back
am.
to them.
Because you have people like you and like Pedro and friends we have that saw me and see the way I am. And it's like, man, that guy's just like, he's real. You know?
Right. Right. And we're always going to gravitate towards the people that are a reflection of our
100%.
inner, world. So,
100%.
we tend to be more of accepting, and because we are all carrying that same frequency and we're vibing on that same energy field, if you want to call.
Right.
So, yeah, and there's a lot of wisdom too behind that conscious, being intentional about your, who you are and all
Right.
that. For me, it's been more like it's come with age. I think you were naturally gifted that because I was always in awe. Like your wisdom is like very ancient, and you look for it too. You seek it.
Always.
You've always read books, and it's interesting how books like can be so life changing, and they really are. There's so much power in knowledge and reading.
Yeah, 100%.
And so yeah, there's that connection also that was always strong from the very beginning. So
yeah, because it's hard. That's another thing that I think kept our friendship is that there's not a whole lot of people who take time out of their day to really like learn and get better themselves. It's more of a niche thing, like to find other people who are really like reading books or listening to podcasts or going to seminars and doing these things to actively find ways to improve their life. And improve themselves at the end of the day, And it's funny you mentioned ancient wisdom. As a kid, I was so drawn to like ancient Greece. I couldn't stop reading about it. I loved reading about Greek mythology and Greek history, and that's where it all kind of started from. And I've noticed that it's all really like all these people throughout history. They're all just basically telling us the same thing.
They are. They are. I mean, not even to get into religion, but like if you look, Jesus, Buddha, like all these people had the same. They preached the same thing, and at the end, like it's how to optimize ourselves and be accepting of others. Even going back to the Bible times, it's they preach to the like the whores, the prostitutes, like and
stuff,
so
yeah.
who am I to impose any judgments on anyone else?
Right.
And so yeah, I truly relate to that. Like I like surrounding myself with like-minded people, and so yeah, network is super important.
For sure.
And yeah, you have to cultivate and nurture these relationships over time. So it's been.
When did you notice that you were different? Like
I think
from
early
other
on,
people?
I mean, I've always known like there's some peaceful nature in me. Like I've always carried like, even as a kid, like when I would see emergencies or like people running around, like I always kept cool. And even now till this day, like if I'm super stressed, I have to voice it. Otherwise, you'll never know. And so like I'm very to myself, but I'm very like very observant. That's always been my thing. And I actually didn't really figure it all out until when I had my knee injury. I had like this huge awakening moment, and it came
It's
unexpected.
right around the time we met.
Right, right. It happened right after, and it kind of all clicked. Like, you know, I started reading more into personal development, and because up until that point, like I would read and it made sense, but I didn't really understand the philosophy or like really. I mean, I knew it and I've heard of it so many times, but I'm like, oh, whatever. I didn't really make sense, and then it just turned around for me one day, and I've really nurtured like my whole inner soul, and it's kind of taken me on my own pretty much. And a lot of it has been stemming from being grateful. Like that, I've always been super grateful. Coming from, you know, an immigrant family, single mom, and crossing the border, like to get from Nicaragua to the States was, you know, I mean, I don't remember much. I was very little, but, you know, my mom is like a huge hero for me. And so she's always been like my North Star, you know, like I want so much for her. And so I appreciate everything she's sacrificed to get us here. And yeah, I've always made sure like I did well in school. I thought that going to college was my ticket out, and I've learned definitely not the case. So
yeah, as most people are figuring out nowadays, it's not a secret anymore.
Not at all.
College has become this thing where, man, it's there and people still go to college. And it's become common knowledge that it's okay if you don't go.
Right.
You know, whereas when you and I were kids, if you didn't go to college, my mom flipped out on me when I told her I was dropping out of college. Flipped out.
Of
like,
course.
Oh my God. Like,
especially.
And I'm like, Mom, I'm dropping out. This is pointless. Like, this isn't, but pointless for me. You know, if you want to be a doctor or an engineer, obviously you have to go to college or a lawyer or whatever. However, it's not a necessary path in life. If it's, I forgot what magazine I was reading that it was like college is the worst business investment you will ever make.
Oh, absolutely.
The absolutely worst.
I mean, I got lucky when I went to school. Tuition wasn't as costly as it is now.
Oh, no, but now it's out of control.
If I were to go back to school now, and I'd probably be well over like 150 in school debt, like student loans, and try to get financing for anything, a home, just anything. Your life is kind of like flipped upside down, and you don't even make that income in 1 or 2 years. You know, it's not worth it. Now, being, you know, a college graduate, I mean, I made it to get my doctorate. I can say that if it's something like innately, like you really want it, like I see Kim Kardashian, she went back to school and she became an attorney. Like if it's like a really desire you have, truly, like I know people that want to be teachers and they're great at it, they have a passion for it, absolutely go for it. But if it's like, for me, like growing up, it was my ticket out, definitely not the road to take. Like I see much younger you know, kids making multi-millions at 18, 19, especially now in the era of the internet,
like e-commerce,
you know?
and stuff like that.
There's e-commerce, AI, technology. There's just so many other different. You can even get certifications. Like you don't need higher education anymore. So
yeah, but well, I'll say something about the whole Kim Kardashian thing and becoming an attorney. That's different. Like she did it because I guess it was like a dream of hers to have that title
from her father,
and it's like, yeah, okay, cool, I did it. That's different and that's rare. You know?
Right, she's like an anomaly.
Yeah, there's people who go back to school just to say I did it, and that's commendable.
It is.
Obviously, she's a billionaire, so
it's
like, oh, how much? $500,000, you know, whatever.
Right.
Which, by the way, I didn't realize. Speaking of the Kardashians, it wasn't until I saw. Did you ever see that TV show, The People versus O.J. Simpson?
No, I never did.
I highly recommend that. I talked about it on a previous episode of the podcast, bro. Whoever hasn't seen that show, go watch it. First off, whoever did the casting, amazing. Cuba Gooding Jr. plays OJ.
Oh, nice.
David Schwimmer plays Robert Kardashian. John Travolta plays Shapiro. Like all-star. They went all out with the casting. They did really well. And basically, it painted a whole other perspective for me of the O.J. Simpson trial. Like, it paints these three from my perspective, it paints these three perspectives of the trial. One is OJ's perspective of being innocent.
Right.
The other is the people who thought he was guilty.
Mm-hmm.
The prosecutor, esto, lo otro, his like wife's friends, and then there's like the gray area of the people who aren't sure. It was so well written. Whoever did that, bro, it was
I gotta
so,
put that on my list.
The reason I mentioned that TV show is because I didn't understand how heavily tied the Kardashians are to American culture.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Her father, Robert, was his number one friend, not even just his best friend, and the one of the attorneys that represented him in the trial.
Well, so from one of the things I think that I've read, like I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they had him be one of the attorneys, like to represent OJ, because that way they couldn't use him as an eyewitness.
Yes, that too. So, yeah, because it was his best friend or whatever. Yeah.
Right, and so, but regardless, he is still known in history as going down to be one of the attorneys for this case. So, I commend her. I mean, she put in the work and she went to school. She committed. She learned the law. And there's a bunch of celebrities. You have Shaq also that went back, and I think it was more like of a family. Like his mother wanted him
to have a college degree.
Right. I think he made it either master's or doctorate. Like
Right.
So I mean, in those instances, if you have a passion, absolutely. We're always going to need doctors and nurses. So
for sure.
Someone, needs to go out there and educate, especially if it's a passion. Absolutely.
I've always said that in an ideal world where I accomplish the things I want to accomplish, which are going to take some serious effort and time, I might go back and learn, like, to get like a psychology degree or do something that interests me,
Right.
But I don't know. The thing with me is I wouldn't put up with the bullshit of academia. Like I wouldn't sit there and take a math class. Like I'm like, bro, what do you?
So and it's so funny that you say that. I got to see that a lot in working at the hospital, and I remember I'm like, I would see doctors that would leave the profession in just a year in, like super young, 31, 32, and they're like, I'm not practicing medicine. Like, I went to school. I want to be able to look at patients, protocol and not be told, okay, they came in with this diagnosis and, I have to give them these medications,
Right.
And it's like there's so many, there's not that autonomy that you go into thinking, right? And so, like I've seen a lot of medical professionals divert into like e-commerce, me going into real estate, investing, some that are becoming private lenders, getting into the funding arena. And
I have a friend of mine named Jasmine Ruiz. Shout out to her she lives up in New York. She has a degree from Brown. Like she has an Ivy League degree, and she's a comedian. She's an comedian influencer.
Exactly.
She's been posting content for years. And then she posted this one that went crazy, and now she has like over 100,000 followers. Yeah.
Good for her.
So it's crazy. She has an Ivy League degree, but she's we're chasing her passion. So
good. That's awesome.
I like seeing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You think that you have control over life sometimes, and it has a funny way of gearing you a complete opposite way. Even now, like 10 years from now, who knows? We're going to look back and be like, oh my God, look where I am now,
Exactly.
So it's good to always explore and stay in tune and like stay curious about how you approach life and not be like so dictative of what's next
100%.
Because you might meet someone tomorrow and totally get inspired to seek out another, career opportunities.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. Okay. Let's go back a little bit. So you weren't born here. You came from Nicaragua. Okay.
I came when I was 4 years old, back in 1989. So my mom was very courageous. Like I said, like she's an OG. I consider her a true like gangster, like
that's cool.
She came with 2 little girls, and my grandmother was already in the States at the time. And so she, I think my mom was maybe 22, 23. And she had the courage to come, and we hired coyotes. I don't know. I'm sure you know what they are.
Yeah,
so they basically smuggle you into the States. Someone you pay. And the first round, I believe he stole my grandmother's. She had sent the money, so he stole the money. The second time we got deported, we were. I think it was in Guatemala.
That's wild.
We were in some kind of commercial plaza, and we had never seen like an escalator. And my sister, I guess, had screamed. I don't really remember the story, but she screamed, and it caused the security people to come, it drew attention, and we didn't have papers.
Wow.
And so we got deported. And then we tried a third time, and we made it. We made it successfully. We crossed Brownsville, and my grandmother received us. She was waiting for us in a hotel. And then we took a Greyhound back to Miami. So
Bro, isn't it insane going full circle with persistence, right? Like, what if your mom would have
Right.
gave up after the first time of trying?
that's
Well,
what I'm saying.
You see,
Yeah.
people don't
She's-
understand persistence is such a universal thing in life. It applies to every single situation you
Right.
can imagine.
And you have to be like that. Like, I think that's one of the beauties in life. Like, you have to go after your dreams, and it makes a life fulfilling. And, like you, especially, like, I don't have children, but I can only imagine, like, the pain must have been so much greater for her to actually seek out the, like, the danger of putting two little girls, into the hands of the unknown. Like,
Right.
we were staying at random people's homes. She would, cook, clean, wash their clothes, just to give us time, because it wasn't like a 1 week journey. This was months.
Right.
And so, I mean, hats off to her. She had, a vision that she executed, and, she made it happen at whatever cost, And so I have vague memories of the process. And, I always say that I have to get the story right before, she either forgets it or whatever. And I've always said we have to go back to that. She'll remember it. I don't.
If you ever really want to do it,
Mhm.
I'll write a script about it.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Oh, okay.
For real.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
That sounds like a super awesome story.
it is. And I've, over time, like, I've met a few Nicaraguans that came that way. And I've always said, I'm like, we should make a movie out of it, because, it's there's a lot of people that went through hard times to get here. Some people didn't make it.
And it's funny, the Cubans, the way they're escaping Cuba now is that they buy like a super expensive flight to Nicaragua, like a $3,000 or $4,000 flight.
I just heard about
They
that
fly to
yesterday.
Nicaragua and they go through the whole thing.
I just heard my family was visiting yesterday. They had a connecting flight, and she was telling me that there's a bunch of Cubans in Nicaragua right now.
Yeah.
And she says that they're paying like $1,000+ just to get there. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long of a plane ride it is, but $1,000 to get you.
No, and now it's cheap, because when they first opened, I forgot what month last year it happened, but at some point, like in late 2022, is when they opened Nicaragua with no visa to Cubans. All you had to do was pay for the flight.
Oh,
Bro,
okay.
the flights were disgusting.
I can
saw
imagine.
3,000, 4,000,
And
5,000.
people paid, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Because
the
imagine to
chance
escape
of
Cuba.
freedom.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I get it, like I said. And, Nicaragua at the time, too, in the 80s, I mean, there was a lot of communism. So
That's right. I forgot. You're like smack dab in the middle of the Reagan era and all that shit. Oh, my
Right.
God.
Yeah. And so my
Bro,
mom.
that would be
Los
such a good
Sandinista-
movie, bro.
Los
We have to
Sandinista.
turn this into
Yeah,
for
yeah.
real.
And you'll have like real live stories, and yeah. And actually, I don't remember which one of
Was it Guatemala or El Salvador that had like Allende and all that stuff? That was in the 80s too, right?
that was. I think that was was it El Salvador?
I'm pretty sure it was
It's
El
one of
Salvador.
those Central American.
Bro, what was up with the Central America in the 80s? It was on fire, bro.
It
That's crazy.
was. It
That's
really
mad.
was.
That's
And
crazy.
I mean, it built a lot of tough skin.
It did,
Because
yeah.
my grandmother's a soldier. Like, I again, hats off to these incredible women that, they were committed. My grandmother came here through my uncle. He was the first one to made it here legally, and then he declared my grandmother, and then my grandmother paid the coyote. But it's a very dangerous road to take. Like I know that one of the coyotes, or their assistants, whatever, they got shot, by the border patrol, and you come in groups. It's not like it's just three.
just
We
two
were like
people.
a group of 20, and I mean, I got carried to cross the river, but I do remember people saying how cold it was. I think it's called Rio Grande.
Yeah.
So yeah, I need to go back and take my mom.
That'd be crazy. There's a lot of people visiting the border now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend of mine named Linda. She records her podcast here. She went this week or this past week. She was there. Like, just I don't know. All like the influencers in the political space were there for some reason. I don't know what was going on, but yeah, it's crazy. You know what I've always wanted to do? Interesting that we bring this up. I've said this on the podcast before. My father in 1988, in the
Oh,
80s,
there you go.
he escaped Cuba by buying a fake Venezuelan passport. Well, he didn't buy anything. My great grandmother bought my father, my grandmother, my aunt, and my uncle. Got them all out of Cuba. She paid. They got fake Venezuelan passports and flew them to Panama.
Wow.
They stayed in Panama with a family for a month, and then they took a bus to Mexico, and then they crossed the Mexican border to Texas, where my other aunt, was waiting for them. I want to go back with my father to the spot where, like, so he can show
Yeah.
me, like, oh yeah, I was here.
I mean, they're
and
so
I want to
historical.
tape it of like him taking me
Absolutely.
there and be like, yeah, no, like this is where I crossed,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, hats off to them that had the
Yeah.
courage to do that, because I don't know that I'd be that risky to.
I would have. I mean, I'm Cuban, so the odds are I was either born here or Cuba, whatever. But if I was born in Cuba, I would have done whatever it takes to get out of that place.
Yeah.
I'm such a free
That's what I'm
spirit.
saying. Like, it has
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be like you're willing to die, basically.
Yeah, 100%.
To just give your
Mhm.
your family, yourself a
shot of
freedom.
100%.
You know. So I really admire anyone that has that.
Yeah, because I have a family member that recently crossed here from Mexico. He recently got here. He lives with my mother in Louisiana. And he gave me a perspective that made total sense. The reason Cuba's still under like a dictatorship is because, bro, everybody wants to leave. Everybody's trying to get the fuck out of there, Like,
I know.
and I'm like, yeah, I would have done the same thing. I would have left. It's like, yo, forget this. Like,
Right. I think you guys are like the staple of the worst case communism there is
Pretty much.
as a country. Because I don't I should be more involved and I should have more knowledge on Nicaragua, like, and its political stance, because they are still considered communist. But there's a lot of freedom there. Like, when it comes to food, there's not that.
the rations and stuff.
There's
like
no
that.
rations that, like, anyone can really buy any types of protein. Like, there's no restrictions with rice or any of that. And you have professionals that still get paid. Like, they might even get paid in American dollars. Like, so it's interesting. Like, there's freedom, but not really. And it still works as a country.
Weird limbo. Yeah.
Right. So I think, Cubans are loving it there because they have more
Yeah.
freedom
Oh
than
my
they've
God.
ever been.
Bro, you go
accustomed
anywhere.
to.
You know that there's Cubans that check this out. There's Cubans that find a way to get passage to Haiti, and they
What?
become Haitian residents,
Wow.
and then they buy stuff in Haiti to go sell in Cuba. And Haiti's considered the poorest country in the world, or it was at some point. So imagine if Cubans are leaving Cuba to go buy stuff in Haiti to sell in Cuba.
That
like,
tells you a lot. My God.
that's crazy.
Wow.
Well, yeah. So okay, so you cross. You're a kid. You come to Miami. You go to school like all the other kids and stuff. So
Yeah, so back then it was a little different. Like, you can
Yeah.
apply for Social Security and a worker's permit and work under that. So we did that for a lot of years. Like, I didn't become a resident until maybe 1997 or something.
you were still a kid, no?
Yeah, I was probably 12, I think,
Mm.
something like that. And then I became a citizen at 18, and it was
Good.
that was another experience in itself.
You didn't make the mistake that a lot of people they procrastinate.
No, we got it right away. And there
Good.
was a law, I think it was under Clinton's administration, La Ley Nacara, that came out, that it helped a lot of, like, Central Americans or Nicaraguans specifically. Like, if you came before, I forget what the
certain
year,
year,
like
yeah.
1990 or something, we just had barely made it.
Mm.
And so we applied, and, like, I think at the time when we made the application, I was 17, and we didn't get, like, a response back, and I had already turned 18, so they denied mine. But my sister was already older, and she applied the right way with my sister, so they both became a citizen before I did. So I had to reapply on my own, but I got it. I made it.
Cool.
And it was probably one of the top 5 moments in my life, like, to finally have that certificate and, feel like a native, or,
an
as
American.
best as I can.
Yeah, I've met in my own family. I've met many people, and obviously in Miami, you meet a lot of people that come from Latin America. They always tell me, oh, pasaporte azul, like the blue passport, bro. There's nothing like
It's
it.
such a privilege.
I have a cousin. I'll never forget the way he explained it. He said, bro, I remember having a Cuban passport and being a U.S. resident and coming back from vacation, and you see all the Americans walk
Oh my
past you.
God, yeah.
He's like, one day I want to be an American. I want to be able to walk all past all these
Yeah,
people.
and it's a
And
privilege that we take for granted
yeah.
sometimes.
And he said, bro, when I finally got my American passport and I went up and I came back and I was in that line where the American, like the citizens go, it was like, He's like, bro, I could cry, you know.
It is.
Yeah.
And you know, when you, I don't know if they still do that, but they give you a little flag. I kept that flag for years. I wouldn't let it go. I had it like in my room. And, you know, because I was so grateful. And I'm like, man, this is the best thing. I'm an American, you know?
100%.
So, yeah.
All right. All righty, guys. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, the familiar voice of your host, Nelson Rodriguez Jr., taking a quick detour to talk to you about the best jewelry shop on the internet, Gus Villa Jewelry. Let's be honest here, guys. Jewelers in Miami are super shady sometimes. I've even been ripped off once or twice by one of these self-proclaimed alchemists that ended up being these weirdos who sell you a bunch of stuff that make your neck and your fingers turn black. Let me tell you, after I met my boy, Gus Villa, he elevated my bling game. The Gus Villa team, these guys are more than just jewelers. These guys are magicians, turning metal and stone into your next head turner. Trust me, these pieces shine so much you can see them from outer space. Head over to GusVillaJewelry.com, and because you're a Monty, that's right, part of the Montana Method crew, you can use the promo code Montana to snatch 5% off your order. You don't just get hooked up with some shine, you get to have some dough in your pocket. Double whammy. So guys, what are you waiting for? Elevate your jewelry game. Show the world what you got. You got some style, you got some bling, you're all blinged up. Come on back after you do that. We've got more Montana Method Madness waiting for you. Now back to the podcast. By the way, guys, for those of you that grew up in the Hialeah Gardens area,
Yes.
Jose Marti Middle School, Barbara Goldman High School.
Yes.
So shout out to what class?
2003.
2003. I'm class 2010, a little bit behind you, but still. Goldman was founded in like 96, so there's not that many of us. Anyway, so you come over to the prosperous city of Hialeah.
That's right.
You become a
Hialeah
US
girl.
become a U.S. citizen. You graduate from high school. You go into college for physical therapy, right?
Yep. I went straight to college.
When FIU? No.
FIU. All 7 years.
Cool.
Yes.
All right. When is it that you even had an idea that investing in real estate was like a possibility, and how did that transpire?
So real estate, you know, so I always started to read books maybe right after high school.
Like Rich Dad Poor Dad, that kind of stuff?
I read Rich Dad. That was one of the early books that I read that kind of like really opened my mind.
I think that's the book that really does it for people. Like, I don't know how Robert Kiyosaki did it, but I think it's the story of like teaching you, hey, this is what we're taught.
Right.
But this is what's on the other side.
It's relatable.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think everybody knows that poor dad, mentality, because that, like we talked about it earlier, you know, our parents tell us, you know, go to school, get a job, you know, that whole white picket fence, make good money and retire at 60, whatever. Now it's 67, but
soon it'll be 75 and then 90.
Right. And then so I read another book. It was early on. I think it was From Janitor to Millionaire, or to janitor from janitor to multimillionaire. And it was another real estate book about a janitor who basically bought his first home, and he would refinance every odd amount of years until he became a millionaire, self-made, just through real estate. And so just little by little, I started learning. And I'm like, as soon as I graduated from college, I had two goals. I'm like, I need to buy a house, and I need to get out of my student loans. And I always worked through college, so I never wanted to graduate with lots of loans. So I managed to knock that off maybe within the 2 years. But I was also saving. I had like a bucket, you know, saved on the side for me to buy a home, because I knew it was going to come. It's just I had to find it. So I was on Zillow. When I talk, I was obsessed. I mean, during my lunch break, like I was never into social media, but I was on Zillow and looking until I finally found the property that, you know, I made an offer on. And I bought my first home. And then...
Was it the house in Miramar?
That house in Miramar.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. I bought that in 2012, and then the plan was always, okay, I'm going to buy one every year or two. I'm going to stay here living in it for a year, and then I'm going to move out and buy another one, and I was going to stack them up. And, you know, my mother moved in with me, so it was us two for a long time. And then the plans fell through, you know, like my mom started loving the garden. It was our first home ever. We've always lived in apartments up until that point. And nothing. So I got creative. You know, I started learning about the refinancing, how to get a line of credit. And so I leveraged. I learned very early that, you know, you don't get taxed on debt. So as long as I didn't sell the house, I didn't have any capital gains to pay. So I ended up getting a line of credit first. And I was able to, I think at the time it was $80K that I got basically tax-free. And I put it on another two properties. And And then I did it again maybe like 3-4 years after, and I refinanced the house and I got another chunk of money and I spread that into more properties. And then I started doing that. I made one mistake, looking back, like I ended up funding a investment cash. Like I worked my ass off, but I didn't know any better, And so
So you didn't take out a loan, like you bought the property cash?
I bought that one cash
Damn,
at the
you're
time.
a beast.
But when I tell you that I worked my ass off,
No,
like
I can imagine.
I mean, and a lot of my friends will attest for that. They're like, "You're crazy. You need to give yourself a break." But I was one of those that I always balanced myself. Like I was one of those that I would show up to work still with glitter because I went partying, the night before because I wanted to have fun also.
Right.
And I was never like, I always liked to sleep, but I was okay as long as I was having fun. That I'm like, you know what? I had fun. So what? I only slept 5 hours last night, and I went to work. Like I would start at 7. And my first job was from 7 to 3. And then I started my other job at, I think it was at 3:45 or whatever to 7. And then I did that 3 times a week.
And then you go out and party.
Well, not in the week, but yeah, on the weekends. Yeah, I worked Saturdays, Sundays, but I was there. I was going out. I always went out. Like I loved going out. I even though I consider myself an introvert, I do well like in, social settings. I'm really easy to get along with, and I stay present to the conversation so I can, blend with any personality. And so then I learned about networking. And so I would get out of work at 7, take my whatever outfit, and then go straight to Miami and go to this real estate networking event. And so I met a lot of people around, lending. And so whatever I didn't know, I would make sure I'd make it a point to introduce myself and and a lot of people like are willing to teach, I think we have a misconception like, oh, this person has made it, and you'd be surprised. Like they're not like they'd be willing to help. So I just got myself in the right rooms, and then I got into personal development, because I went in it more for the communication. Like at that time, like my relationships were not where I wanted them to be. And so I'm like, I was the common denominator. And so I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what am I not voicing? And so I went in there with that intention, and, I ended up learning so much about myself that I was not really aware of. And, things started clicking. It started to click. And then it's really helped in negotiations and like in business, because now you can see, okay, this person is this type of personality.
Right.
So how can I, make a transaction, or how can I make it, like where it's a win-win for everyone,
for everyone.
Not just me. It's not about me ever. So, yeah, that's basically the gist of my life story in 2 minutes?
That's cool, man. That's such a bro. There's no secret formula. That's everybody's success story, or everybody's like, trajectory of how they got to where they are. Is, bro, I learned and I met people and I worked my ass off and I studied and I implemented and I failed and I got back up and I tried again and I did this and I did that until I just figured it out, bro.
Right, and that's anybody that tells you otherwise, they're lying.
I try that. I've made it a point to try to find something different on this podcast.
Yeah.
Like I go out of my way to ask questions and talk to people, and I'm like, man, is there something I'm missing?
Right.
Is there something in this equation of life, whether, and you and I know like life is universal. If you can apply it to work, you can apply it to your fitness, to your relationships, whatever, right? So I actively ask these questions to be like, man, is there something in this formula of life that I'm missing? Like, I know you have to work hard. I know you have to study really hard. I know you have to implement. I know you have to get it wrong and fuck up and like do it again and learn how to do it. I know these things, but I'm like, man, is there something I'm missing that I'm not doing? And bro, I swear, every time I try to find that missing component, it's like, no, bro.
No, there is no magic formula. Yes. Right. 100%. You just got to take life, you're never in control, first of all, but you got to just take life and flow with it. Like, because there are things beyond our even capacity to know that's working behind us that we just got to learn how to maneuver, because, you just adjust your sails as you go along. That's all you can do. And I think one of the biggest things in life, just in general, is to be able to problem solve. Like that is such a huge, a lot of people like, and again, life, relationships, business, medical, just you name it, something's bound to happen, and you have to know how to be more of a how to respond to it as opposed to react, because nothing good ever comes out of being reactive. And so it's just learning how to not even take it personal, but just like learning how to navigate, like, and still finding gratitude behind whatever life lesson you're going through.
100%.
And so it takes time sometimes, and everybody's got a different pacing.
Yeah, comparison is definitely the killer of joy.
Oh, what 100%.
sure.
I mean, and one of the things we talked about earlier was that, like, I think you were naturally born with that wisdom. I think maybe for females, and maybe I'm just being too broad, but at least for me, the insecurities in my 20s were just based on like the comparison. Like, I didn't feel, pretty enough, like all these other stuff, like tall enough.
You know what I've noticed? It's always the pretty women who have all these things going on in their brains.
Yeah.
Like the overweight, like ugly chicks are always like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
But, you know?
It's so funny you say that, because I would go to the beach and I'm like, man, these women, these heavier set women are
Right.
rocking these bathing suits, and
They don't give a shit.
confident.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I wish I was just 1% that confident.
And it's like, I bet you if you walked up to 10 guys on that beach and you honestly, hey, do you think I'm attractive? 10, like 9 out of 10 will be like, yes, you're very attractive. But it's always those women that are like, oh, am I pretty enough? I don't know. How do I look?
Right.
Oh my God, no, I don't want to talk in front of these people. Like,
It's so true.
it's interesting. Yeah.
I was actually telling that, having that conversation with my mom, that I'm like, there's almost like a dysmorphous, like, or psyche going on. But a lot of it is the social pressures too. And I don't think that even some women, like, we fall guilty to like judging so
100%.
quick and harsh, and like, so what? Like, again, in my 20s, totally different than now. Now I don't give a rat's ass. Like, if I have cellulite, like none of those things that mattered before, but it came with time and a lot of self acceptance. Like, I felt like I was even harsh on myself. I wouldn't even wear shorts at one point, like stupid stuff, you know? And I mean, it stopped me from like doing things that I wanted to do just because I was too self-conscious or too concerned about what others would think.
Right.
And so I think over time you just learn to let it go. And not everybody. It's not an age thing. I don't know what it is, but there's some women that are much older and are more self-conscious than a 20-year-old. So
Right.
I don't really know what really it is. I think it's just more your own journey and your own self-love. And it can happen at 20, it can happen at 50,
Yeah,
or
happen at
you
any
may
time.
shoot,
Yep.
miss your shot in your lifetime, and
For sure.
you're still vain, like at 75 years old.
Yeah.
So
For me, it was more, how do I explain? I mean, the wisdom I think I've acquired over time, it's not so much that I was born with it. It's just I've been presented. It's a mix because I've done a lot of like reading and going to seminars and that kind of stuff. But life experiences have taught me a lot.
that's the
Like,
biggest teacher.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
in my short 31 years of living on this planet, I think I've lived 3 lifetimes at least, for sure.
Wow.
I've been through, like, I talk to most people my age and we compare lives. Again, I'm not to compare or anything, but I've noticed that I've been through a lot more than the average person my age.
Right.
And that's a big contributing factor to why, like, sometimes some people are like, man, you're so wise. Like, they sit down with me and it's really, I just remember these very sharp, like, I'll give you a good one I always refer to. My father, I love my father to death. But because of, like, the bad examples that he set forth as a kid, like, I have an idea of how to be a good father.
Right.
If it wasn't for him, like, telling me to be ready at 8 o'clock, be ready at 8
The
o'clock, I wanna go,
discipline.
and then he wouldn't show up.
Right.
Like, he wouldn't call to say I'm not coming. He wouldn't call at all. I'm gonna pick you up at 8 o'clock, and then he would just disappear off the face of the planet.
Wow.
If it wasn't for him doing that, I would never, bro. I'm never gonna disappoint my son like that the day I have a son. Never. I would never do that to him
Right. You have that.
because it happened to me.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
It's marked in you.
My sister was the one that was like packed with her bag, sitting by the door, falling asleep on the couch, waiting for my dad.
Oh.
I would never do that to my daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My dad, another thing, and again, I love my father. I don't have any, but I've been through all that already of like
Right.
understanding,
I know.
But another thing he did was he would lie to me a lot. I mean, obviously, besides the example, he would just do like say these things. Yeah, like for example, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna. Oh, your car, yeah, your first car. I got you. By the end of the summer, I'm gonna buy you a car. And I could point out a million things he would do. And again, it's made me realize like how people feel when you lie to them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You understand?
And you know
So-
what? Yeah, I think just in general, like everyone that we meet, I think it's for a purpose. Whether we
Mhm.
want to be more like them,
100%.
less like them, and we try to like, we're always evolving as humans. No matter what age or phase you're in, we're always going to be evolved. That's the whole. You want to
Right.
grow, and so you hear that all the time. Like there's kids that grew up in like drinking
Right.
homes that their parents were alcoholics or whatever, and then don't ever drink in their whole life ever, because of their past
Right.
experience. And so as adults, we're responsible for like not being victim to all those things. And
100%.
at the end of the day, like I really feel like I went through that clash also myself. And you just have to know that your parents did the best they knew how to with what
That's-
they were given.
As an adult, I understand that now. Like my dad,
Right.
I can't believe that my father would lie to me or anybody else
Mhm.
out of spite.
Right.
Maybe it was out of fear or. So now that I'm older, again, life, right? Once you live
Mhm.
through life, especially my father did time in prison. It was short,
Right.
but after having to go to prison myself, now I'm really
Right, it
understanding.
opens up your eyes.
Like
yeah.
because I think I told you this. I used to think no, if he
Right.
deserves it, it was his fault,
Mhm.
whatever. And then it happens to me, and it's not so black and white anymore, right?
Right.
Because now you understand. Listen,
100%.
this isn't. It's not what you think.
No.
you know?
No.
So I've grown. My father has been a never-ending lesson for me, and I still learn from situations with my father. And that's just one example.
Right.
You know what I mean? Then I have my mother. Then I have my sister. Then I have all the people I've
Everybody.
lived throughout my life.
All the people you love and
All the
right.
business experiences I've had, all the
Mhm.
jobs, all the different places I've traveled to, a bunch of places, and I still have to travel to a million more.
Right.
Traveling to me is like there's 3 natural forms of personal development in life, right? One is opening a business, like
Mhm.
starting any kind of business. You're forced to develop yourself into a person capable of doing these things,
Right.
right? Because like you realize you can't do this, and you're like, all right, now I need to learn how to do this, and you do
You're
it.
on your own.
And then the next thing is, okay, now I need to learn how to do this. And you
Mhm.
learn that, and then you start doing it, and it's like a never-ending self-development
Right.
phase, right?
Mhm.
Number 2 is physical fitness. I've never,
Oh my god.
bro, the
That's-
discipline I've had about working out, and like I've never had discipline like that with anything else in my
You
life.
have to. I like bodybuilders for me.
No, that's on another level.
But those people, the amount of
crazy.
discipline
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have, like I've seen people were out in restaurants and they're not even in a competition phase or anything. They will sit there and bring their home cooked meals
Their little
and their everything is
prep.
measured. And it's like,
Crazy.
man, and everybody's out there having brownie, like just drinking and this
That's
and that. And
crazy.
here they are with a salad and their protein. And I mean, wow.
Yeah.
The amount of discipline that I have
That's
a lot of
nuts.
respect for them.
No, I do too. People talk shit because of the steroids and all that shit, but no, it's not. It's not the steroids, bro. It's the work ethic. It's the discipline. It's like
It's a huge
the
mindset.
the willingness to put yourself through immense amounts of pain. Because I lift weights now, and that shit is not a joke, bro.
It's not.
Like now, I can bench press probably like 275, almost 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But to get there was like,
Oh no, I can't even
dude,
imagine.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Bodybuilders, the consistency, the discipline, I admire that for sure. So the first natural way of developing yourself is becoming an entrepreneur. Second is physical fitness, right? Third is traveling.
Yeah,
When you travel and you see other
it
places,
opens you up to so many.
bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that in itself, like you have a whole different appreciation for life.
For sure.
Period.
Mhm.
And just culture, you open yourself up to different perspectives. And you come back home and you see your life and you're like, man, I've been complaining about whatever the stupid thing, and these people have to travel miles to just get access to water or just
Yeah.
everything.
Or just like, just seeing the world. Like one of the most jaw dropping experience I've ever had was I have a friend of mine that lives in Costa Rica. His name is Ronnie.
Mm-hmm.
And he always picks me every time I've gone over there. He picks me up, and he takes me wherever I want, and we have fun and stuff. And he's this massive guy. He's like 6'3", 300 pounds. He's like talking about bodybuilders. He's massive. He's huge. So he takes me. He's like my bodyguard or whatever. But he's really just my homie. He's taken me twice. He takes me to this cliffside in Hako.
Oh my God. Oh, I've been to Hako.
And you see the sunset.
Beautiful.
I could have sat there the whole night.
Yeah, well, I mean? I think nature just period does that to me.
Nature's nuts. There's this rainforest called a Bosque Virgen. It's in this place called Rancho de Lapia in Costa Rica. And the guy bought 150 acres of forest and it's preserved like no one's allowed in there.
Oh my God.
Bro, they took us all the way up the mountain and that freezing cold water, dude. I dove in it and obviously it's freezing, but you come out of the water and you're like, bro, this water's like, it's like
magical.
Bro, it breathes life into me, bro. It's crazy.
Well, there's a whole science behind the cold plunges.
Oh,
period,
yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, nature, and over there they have volcanoes, rainforests.
Everything you can imagine.
The food is so different than a chicken there, or even an egg.
Yeah.
Like the eggs there, the color is like more
totally
orange.
Different.
The steaks are more tender. But absolutely, like, it's grounding, definitely. Very grounding to visit any of these countries.
And the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
And they're super smart, believe it or not. Like, I remember when I was in the Philippines, we were in one of like the remote islands, and just to go to school, the kids had to go on a like 2-hour ferry or boat ride.
Wow.
So what they did is that the community, very small, the women became the teachers. And I mean, these kids were smarter, I would say, than me. They knew how to plant which fruit plant next to like the vegetable, and because they knew which insect would go, and that way the tallest plant, would survive. And it's just interesting. Like, they would raise their own pigs, very healthy eating. They exercise, they get a lot of sunlight, and there's a lot of, they don't suffer from like the stuff that we do here, like in terms of like depression. They have, they seem to like just love life. The kids are out there playing soccer, and the same soccer ball, they're throwing it for volleyball, for everything. They're using it as a one sport, one ball every sport type of thing. And so,
cool.
Yeah, it just gives you a different
perspective. Yeah.
Different perspective and appreciation for sure.
I have a friend of mine that she's from this, what's the name of that place? She's from, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's a place over and in Honduras, Roatán.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if
I don't know that one.
It's an island that's like maybe it's an island like maybe off the like a few miles off the coast of Honduras. It's maybe 40 miles long.
Okay.
And it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. Like, it's this pure island that's been tucked away from the world. The whole island is only 36 miles long. You could probably circle the whole island in like an hour. And it's breathtaking. That's where she's from. She grew up there. She talks about it. She's like, yeah, I used to go to the beach every day. I used to see the sunset on the beach every day, whatever. Because I invited her down here and I wanted to take her to Miami Beach or whatever. And we didn't get to just because of time, because she had a bunch of stuff to do or whatever. But then I was like, next time you go, let's go to the beach. And she's like, man, the beach to me is like whatever,
Right. It's like,
because it's where she grew up. Yeah. So, guys, another quick break. We'll hear from our second sponsor, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, guys, taking a quick break from the podcast to bring you a word from our sponsor, Christian J. DePaz. Appreciate him for coming through. He offers a phenomenal service. Guys, I'm a big promoter of entrepreneurship, owning a company, starting a business, doing your own thing, and chasing your own dreams. But as the old saying goes, it takes money to make money. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Christian J. DePaz and what he does. He gets funding for new and startup businesses. Christian, tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you so much, bro, for the opportunity to come inside your podcast and help more entrepreneurs start their own business or scale their current businesses. So what we do here at Secure Funding is that we'll help you acquire anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 at 0% interest rate business credit, so that you can once again start or scale your current business. So if you come here from our good friend Nelson, there's no other you're coming from, then we'll have him at the podcast and we'll take extra good care of you. With that being said, brother, thank you so much for bringing us on.
Of course. What are you waiting for, guys? Click the link in the bio. So I remember, when was it that you went to Egypt? Like 2019, 2019? I remember because it's right when I graduated gratitude and you called me on video.
Oh,
It
right.
was like in October of 2019, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Mm.
that sounds about right.
Egypt. That's nuts, right? Like seeing
That
the pyramids.
was I mean, I had a lot of fun. I naturally love also ancient history, so it was like beautiful to be in those pyramids and like just my God to see it right there, the hieroglyphics and just a whole different world of
Mm.
history back there. But it's also very dangerous. I went in there
Mm.
not knowing how dangerous it was, and I know that we had either a military or some kind of police officer in our
Like
tour bus.
escort you. Yeah.
Right. Everywhere we went, it was like I went to Jordan on that trip. I went to Morocco, Jordan, and Egypt, and I felt safer in Jordan and
Wow.
Morocco than I did
In
in
Egypt.
Egypt.
That's crazy.
And they always told you like make sure that when we go to these sites, the vendors that you don't tell them like, hey, yeah, when I come back, because those people they remember you and they will follow you. Hey, no, you said after you came back from your tour, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get kidnapped here. So. Yeah, you got to be super careful there.
That's wild.
But otherwise, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, yeah, it's the food. I got super sick there too. Probably the worst food poisoning I've ever had in my life.
Really?
I lost like so much weight.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I was just talking about that like last week about that experience, and I remember I was like crying in the bus because I needed to go to the bathroom so bad. And I didn't want to stink up the
bathroom.
the
yeah.
bathroom in the bus. So, and then you have to take toilet paper
Because
everywhere
there's
you
no
go.
toilet paper
There's
anywhere.
no toilet paper in the
Oh my God. That
in
sounds
the
like
gas
Cuba.
stations and everywhere
That's
you
crazy.
go.
Yeah.
So
That's how it is in Cuba. You have to like have it with you. There's no. In some cases, you have to pay for it. Like you go to. I remember I went to this nightclub in Cuba one time, and it's like I walked in and I need to use the bathroom.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
"Oye, ¿dónde está el papel sanitario?" "Oh, yeah, well, $1." I was like, "Fuck, I gotta buy it."
Yeah, I know. I've never seen that.
That's
So
crazy. That's
yeah,
pretty
I
wild.
mean, it's a whole different way of operating what
Yeah.
we're used to here. So
How many places have you traveled to?
oh man, countries probably over 20.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
maybe 25, something like that.
Have you been everywhere you've ever wanted to go?
No, no. I still want to go to the only Asian country I've been to is the Philippines.
Mm.
So I want to explore Asia a little bit more, and I want to go to Australia, New Zealand,
Mm.
and I still want to go to South Africa too, and South America. I haven't really. I visited Brazil, but that's it. I've never
South
been to
America.
Colombia.
I've only been to Colombia in South
I've
America.
never been, and Colombia is one of the
Yeah.
places I want to go to.
Heard Colombia. I mean, I've been to Medellin. I haven't been to, but Medellin was probably one of the best, one of, if not the best vacation I've ever had. It's so cheap.
I
A
I
plate of
hear
food
that all
is
the
like
time.
$1 for
My
una
God.
bandeja paisa.
Qué
Like,
rico.
yeah,
Oh
for
my
real.
God.
we
Chicharrón.
just ate breakfast, and she's like, "Oh, let's go eat lunch."
Oh my God. I know, right? I'm ready.
That's funny.
That's crazy.
But yeah, Colombia's dirt cheap, super cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the world's so big. I can't relate to. I've ran into people like, yeah, no, I've never left my city. I've been here my whole life. I've never gone anywhere. It's like, bro, what?
That's
What
crazy.
is that?
I know.
That's insane. No way, bro. You know?
Well, yeah, I think especially like the older generations, like my grandma, I think she's only been to, she went to Canada once, but aside from Nicaragua and Canada, she's never been anywhere. And
Wow.
Costa Rica, because she used to work there when she was younger.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think the accessibility too, and it was just a different grind back then, you
It
know?
was. Yeah, yeah.
So I think we're definitely very fortunate that we're able to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah. No, so for example, my sister lives in this little small town in Louisiana.
Mhm.
Her, my mom, my niece and nephew, and like my cousin are 100% of the Cuban population, like in that little town. Anyway, I meet people. Yeah, I've never traveled.
Yeah,
It's like,
some people
what?
don't have an interest for it, which
That's
is crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
It's insane.
I know. And even actually I haven't explored the US as much as I wanted to.
I've been to 47 states.
Really? No,
Yeah.
I don't have that. I'd probably maybe
Just in the United States, you have so much to see and so much
that's what
to
I
do.
was going to say.
Bro.
And I've always been of the mindset I'm like, you know what? I'd rather do these long flights cuz I've been to Europe a couple
few times.
times already, and I mean they're dreadful. I think the Philippines was the worst. I think it was 22 hours in total, which is exhausting. So I can't imagine being una viejita.
My godfather goes over there like 2-3 times a year, and the flights are pretty wild. Yeah, it's like
They
a
are.
20-something hour flight.
They are. And so like I think I've always been more pushy towards visiting outside of the U.S. because then I feel like I can get in the car and drive anywhere if I need to, if I can't be on a plane. So, but yeah, I definitely, there's a lot of beautiful national parks that I want to go to here.
No, if you love nature, within the United States, there's so much to see somewhere, bro. Like Salt Lake City.
That I've been to.
Montana.
No, yeah, I know.
Oh my God, the mountains in Montana.
I know. I've seen them.
You watched Yellowstone?
I've been to Yellowstone.
No. The Yellowstone, the TV show.
Oh no.
Watch it. Trust me, you're gonna have a whole new.
Oh yeah, I bet. That's my thing.
Yeah. You're gonna see like Montana. You're gonna fall. You're gonna want to go. Trust me. It's the way that director, that writer Taylor Sheridan, he captured Montana in such a beautiful way.
Really?
Yeah. He, aside from the story that's super badass and the characters like draw you in, and like all that is amazing. Something else that he really was a master of, he just captured that life, like the cowboy life and the rancher life, and as they picked a beautiful ranch to record the film. Like it's good, it's beautiful. Big sky country, all that stuff looks, it's amazing. Yeah, the nature here, just here alone, you could go to the forest up north, like in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh yeah, I mean
desert. There's so many.
Even Hawaii, I've been wanting to go to also for like their crater. Like they just, there's a lot of beauty everywhere.
Yeah.
Iceland is also. I want to see the Northern Lights.
Yeah.
Alaska.
This year you could have seen the Northern Lights somewhere here in the United States.
I saw that.
Where. It was like somewhere up north.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's endless.
There's so many things to do and so many like that like see the Northern Lights, see the 8 wonders of the world. Go eat food in this country. Go do this, and there's so many different things. Just in Asia, there's a million different things. I want to go to Japan.
China,
Hong Kong. Yeah, like there's a million. The Philippines.
Indonesia. I want to go India. I want to go to India too.
Yeah, I had no interest in going to India until I read this book called Shantarma. I recommend it. You like books, dude?
Oh,
it was a parting gift, my friend. It was the last gift I ever got from a friend of mine that I met in prison. I've never seen him ever again.
Oh, I think you mentioned that book to me. So I remember. He gave it to you.
The crazy thing is, the whole time I was in there with him, we became really good friends, and he would tell me about the book every day, almost every day. And they confiscated the book in the other prison he was in because it was like the story of someone escaping prison. So, and mind you, this book is like $150 on the outside. Yeah. Somehow he found the book, somebody that had it, and they just gifted it to him. He's like, "Oh, hey, take it, read it when you get home." And I read it, dude. It was such a good book.
Really? Oh my God.
Good. Yeah, Apple TV turned it into a series, but the series sucked because they changed everything. Hollywood ruins
of course,
everything.
yeah.
It was still good, but it wasn't the book. Like they changed everything and they made it a totally different thing. Anyway,
right.
The setting of that book is in a city called, at the time it was called Bombay, but it's called Mumbai now.
Oh yeah,
bro. Now I want to go. Now it's like, oh my God.
No, I would love to visit India, and plus I like all the colors and their culture. The food I like, but I'm not crazy about spicy food.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Me too.
I wish I was because I do like the taste, but I'll cry. I'm not
big.
Can't tolerate.
I'm not big on the spice, bro. I can't do that. That's like. And mind you, I'm not picky about food. I'll eat almost anything. But I guess I never grew a tolerance to it. And like anytime I taste a little bit of spice,
me too. I instantly cry. And it's funny because I've been to places and I ask people, I'm like, is it spicy? And they're like, no, whatever.
Bro,
I take one bite and I'm like, screaming, crying. I'm like,
That reminds me. So we go full circle. My dad, when he was crossing the border in Mexico, I remember him telling the story of being like, there was this Mexican man. I went to this place and I ordered like un pan con bistec, and I asked him, bro, in Spanish, "Oye, esto picante? Is this spicy?" No.
Oh yeah.
He said he took a bite of the sandwich and he felt like slapping the guy in the face, bro.
Yeah,
that's
and
terrible.
The problem with the spicy, for me at least, is the whole meal tastes like spice after. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And the whole reason, I love food, so I like to taste whether it's salty, sweet, whatever, the blends, not just one spice, So. Yeah, no, that's happened to me a handful of times, and it's not fun. And my whole family eats spicy. I'm the only one.
Well, that makes sense in Nicaragua. Yeah,
we eat a lot of
spicy stuff. Yugi, it's been over an hour already.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it flew by, right?
We always joke about it, like time flies.
Yeah.
So.
The same thing happens on the phone when I'm talking to you. It's like, oh my God, we've been on the phone 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. This is your home whenever you want it to be.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I always wrap up the podcast by asking 3 questions. So first question, what inspires you?
What inspires me? So, for sure, for me, it's definitely having intention behind everything I do.
Mm.
I want to be able to look back on my life and say that I went after everything, that I didn't sit back or skip out on
Or settle.
anything
Yeah.
or settle. So definitely, yeah, it's the ability to improve myself, leave the world a little better than I came in, and be an inspiration to other people. You know, like that leadership is very important to me. So
100%.
I try to make sure I stay true to my word, true to myself,
Mm.
and not be so harsh on myself.
Right.
Like, definitely.
I like that. Intentions, like the intention behind what you do is everything.
100%.
If you're not sure what direction to head in when you're doing something, and you're not sure, or if you're not sure what
Mm-hmm.
you're putting behind an action you're taking, it's like a total waste of time. Like, what are you doing?
It
You know
is.
what I mean?
It
the,
is.
the intention behind what you have is everything, and more importantly, not just the intention, the clarity.
The
you know?
clarity, right?
Because I'm sure there's been some pretty crazy stuff that turned into some wild,
Mm-hmm.
like unintended things because they weren't clear. You know?
Right.
Like, I'm sure everybody who's done something bad started off with great intentions.
Absolutely.
Is it, what's that old saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Then actually, like, I know that it's been studied a lot. Like, people in their deathbed, they always ask them, not always, but they've been asked, what is it that you wish you would have done? And their biggest regret is not going after whatever it was, whether it's
Right.
after the woman they wanted, the career they wanted, the
100%.
country they wanted to visit. And so I don't want to live like that. Like,
I
you
would
know,
much rather face rejection every day of my life and know that,
Absolutely.
okay, maybe it wasn't meant for me, then ask myself, damn, what if I would have tried and
Right,
it
that
would
what
have
if
worked
will
out the
kill
way I
you.
wanted? Yeah,
right,
yeah,
right,
100%.
right. And so, yeah, I don't want to live like that. So,
For sure.
Mhm.
Second question, what's next for you?
What's next? In terms of my career, so I've been doing real estate for more than a decade now, and so right now I have been doing coaching, getting new investors to start investing, and I do one-to-one. I don't believe in that cookie cutter because everybody's different and they
Right,
have
right.
a whole different financial landscape. So I
For
try
sure.
to make it unique to their goals and what they want to accomplish short term and long term. But personally, also, I want to get into commercial real estate. I got exposure to that. I think I told you back in
The storage
November. The storage facility. It's been good. I've learned a ton, and it's definitely provoked more multifamily building units. But I want to do it more different structure than what I'm in now. And so one of the things I'm looking into is liquidating my assets and then getting into commercial space.
Yeah, bro. That's why I think you're so inspiring, man. Like, just when I think you're doing some badass stuff, you find out some more badass stuff, and you get into that. Like, hats off to you, bro. Because I
Thank
think
you.
you live from. Again, this is just me as a friend. You live a pretty good life.
Thank you.
Like, your life is pretty cool.
Thank you.
And
I
the
worked
fact-
hard for it.
You did.
I
No,
really
but the
did.
fact that you're like, all right, there's another level. Let's try
That's
you
just
know?
my personality. I
That's
don't
cool.
think I can ever, a lot of people say that you start to change, and you do change as you evolve and you grow, whatever. Absolutely, you have to. But my core and my principles will always still be there. Like, the humility is super strong in me. The integrity. Like, there's no one. I will never do dirty work or, do someone dirt just for me to, get an extra buck
Right.
off of them.
Right,
It's not who I am. And I think my biggest, feeling or that I get out of life is like to be able to go to sleep knowing that I didn't, screw anyone over.
Right.
Like, I want to
100%.
be able to, again, be fulfilled, and be of service. Really, that's what
Right.
we're here for. We're not here for our own selfish needs.
100%. Yeah, I can relate with that. I love that.
Mhm.
And then the last question: how do you want to be remembered when you're not here anymore?
I want to be remembered as someone who loved life, brought sunshine into people's, life, and gave a lot of positivity, like to be able to give a spin, like I said, into ordinary, life situations, like to be able to spin it off into being like, you know what, I don't want this to happen to me, but, you know, things always happen for you, you know, in your favor, not to you. And so I really believe that I want to be remembered as someone that made the best out of her life.
That's awesome. Hugi, thank you for your time. Appreciate you having.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, appreciate you coming. And alrighty, guys, another episode of Montana Method Podcast. Oh, before we get going, sorry, I almost forgot to ask. I'm the worst with this.
It's okay.
Tell people how they can connect with you.
All right. You can find me on my Instagram at Hugi C. That's HUGIC. And at Facebook also, Hugi C, HUGICEE.
Perfect. Alrighty, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Till next week, push it to the limit. The world is yours. If you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, guys. Say goodnight to the bad guy.
Bye, guys.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags